Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Biblical Fiction Buffs podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Van Mourik, and I'm here to talk to you today about upcoming books slated for release in 2023. This is by no means an exhaustive list. If you know of others, please let me know. Please tell me, because I will for sure be adding them to my TBR. But these are 5 different books that I know of that I think you might want to be aware of or have on your radar. Obviously, I haven't read them. I don't know anything about the stories or the content or, what they're like or anything like that. But I just wanted to give a little shout out to 5 different books coming out in 2023. Hope y'all had a lovely holiday season, by the way, and are, enjoying New Year's and New Year's celebrations and starting over and starting fresh and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's get into it. I've tried to arrange these books in order of release date and when they're coming out. So the first book that I wanted to talk about was actually a book by Jill Eileen Smith. It's coming out February 14th of 2023, and it is called Daughter of Eden, Eve's Story. So obviously about Adam and Eve and creation. And the book summary or back cover style blurb is: the first time she opens her eyes, Eve gazes on one whose beauty nearly blinds her, whose breath is in her lungs. Her creator takes her hand and gives her to one like her and yet different. Together, she and Adam experience pure joy as they explore Eden. But her favorite moments are when the creator comes to walk with them day after day. Until everything changes. With one act of disobedience, Eve finds that her world is no longer a friendly place. With remorse in her heart, she must face the unknown future, the births, the deaths, the sacrifices, the loss of the one home she has ever known. Perhaps worst of all is the loss of trust, not only with her creator, but with the man who shares her life. How will they ever survive out of Eden? Best-selling biblical fiction author Jill Eileen Smith imagines the life of the first woman to ever live, unspooling a story of love, loss, and the promise of redemption. So that one sounds super exciting. Again, it's coming out February 14th, 2023, available for pre-order right now on Kindle and paperback. And it should be very exciting. Can I just say, the cover is gorgeous, and I think you're going to notice that that's going to be a theme throughout this entire podcast episode. It's just so beautiful and lush and green. And I mean, you guys know me. I love green. I love plants. So that is for sure one that I would love to have on my shelf just for the sake of the look of it. The next book that I wanted to mention, I have to give a little bit of a disclaimer for. I actually have read the next one. I had the privilege and honor of reading an advanced reader copy for the purposes of providing an endorsement, and I just loved this book. So I do have a little bit more to say about this one, but the next book that I wanted to give a shout out to is also coming out, I believe, February 14th of 2023. So a little bit of they're sharing book birthdays, it looks like. And it is a divine romance, a retelling novel inspired by the life of Joseph. And that one is just, I'll start by reading the blurb and summary, but then I'll kind of get into talking about it more and more of the specifics without giving away any spoilers, because it's always so hard for me to talk about and promote books without telling you every single thing that happens within the pages. But here we go. Hers is the flawless face no man has seen except her father. His is the foreign face everyone reveres save his family. The royal decree that couples this unlikely pair will make or break the history of an ancient empire. Considered a gift from the sun god due to her arresting eyes, Asenath was veiled in childhood and destined to marry Egyptian royalty. The 17-year-old is resigned to a loveless future in the royal harem when Pharaoh's shocking declaration forces her to marry the new vizier of Egypt, a mystical foreigner with powers of divination. Known as Zaphnath-Paneah, her husband turns out to be handsome, charming, and possibly insane since he worships an invisible god and expects her, the daughter of a high priest, to do the same. Facing a fate seemingly worse than that she grew up dreading, she desperately searches for a way out of the arranged marriage. The secrets she uncovers usher her into a world of intrigue and treachery that questions all her beliefs about men, gods, and love. Will theirs be the most monumental mismatch made in Egyptian history, or will her daring demand for a sign from his god make all her childhood fantasies come true? Combining original poetry with well-researched history, A Divine Romance is an own voices retelling of a beloved biblical tale that takes readers on a riveting journey through ancient Egypt and introduces them to a fresh poetic voice in Christian fiction. So, this book is A Divine Romance by Afueko Ogbomo, and it was such a pleasure and a joy to read for me. She emailed me one day and I got the email and I think I opened it really late at night and I thought, well, I've kind of tried to slow down in the past few years reading books for review or with the amount of books I take on for review, and I kind of had a lot on my plate at the moment, but I sort of thought, well, let me just open the document and see, because she sent me her email with her very kindly worded request and with the document attached. So I kind of opened it just to see what it would be like. And you guys, I did not stop reading. I opened it and I just read and read and read and read way too late until I went to sleep, and then I woke up the next morning and I kind of had some free time in between like chores and work and all that kind of stuff, so I kept reading, and before I knew it I had finished it all in basically 1-2 sittings. Like I'd read it and then I'd slept and then I'd woken up and read it some more. But it was such a beautifully worded story. I felt like, the summary kind of tells you, but I felt like it was super poetic, and the descriptions and the colors and just how everything was described was so vivid and beautiful. And there were a couple of parts where I definitely got chills, and I just really enjoyed this imagining, and I'm so excited for more from Afueko. And I cannot say enough good things about this author. This is her debut book, her debut fiction novel. She has been published before with her poetry, and she's also very talented at spoken word. But yeah, I had the privilege and the honor of being able to write a blurb for this book, and I cannot say enough good things about it. And I really just have enjoyed getting to know this author and learning more about her story and what inspires her to write. And I'm just really excited to see what happens. I love biblical fiction. I love when it grows. I love when new authors emerge, and I don't always have the time anymore to read quite as much as I used to back when I was in college and high school and so on and so forth, as life gets more demanding. But I'm so glad that I did, and that I just made the time to read this one, even if it meant staying up until super late at night. It was really good, and I enjoyed it a lot. And she's just a very gifted communicator, and this one was a very fresh style, fresh voice, and I'm very excited for it if you couldn't tell. So I'll stop rambling and move on to the next one. But yeah, both Daughter of Eden by Jelline Smith and A Divine Romance by Afueko Ogbomo are coming out February 14th, 2023. The next book I have is another self-published author, and that is Jennifer Jennings, and her book, The Servant Siblings Book 4, is coming out, I believe, March 10th of 2023. So that is Jude, and the summary, I'll just read it really quick, is Jude ben Joseph dreamed of becoming a respected rabbi. Born into a poor family that needed his hands more than his mind, that dream was quickly snuffed out when his oldest brother, Jesus, abandoned their family to become an untrained traveling teacher. Jude's jealousy and resentment grew toward his brother. With Jesus' death, his ministry was finally silenced. At least that's what Jude thought. To his dismay, followers multiply as sightings of a risen Jesus spread like wildfire. Prophecies unravel as Jude pieces together what he has studied with what his brother taught. When those teachings collide with Jerusalem's religious leaders, Jude starts to see wolves hiding in sheepskins. Will Jude's tight grasp on religious traditions hold up under the growing weight of this new sect, or will his brother's teachings change the way he views traditions? Seek truth and spiritual insights in this fictionalized biblical story, Jude, Book 4 of the Servant Siblings series. So yeah, like that description says, there's four books in the series total. I'm not sure if there's going to be more. I haven't really done my research on that, but if you've read some of her other books in the past, I've read a few of her Old Testament novels, but these ones are New Testament focused, and they start with James, Joseph, and continue on from there. So that is definitely one to check out if you are wanting to support more indie or more self-published biblical fiction authors. After that, we have probably the book that I am, not the book, I can't play favorites, but one of the books that I am most beyond excited for, In Feast or Famine by Misu Andrews, which is the follow-up to her book that came out this year, Potiphar's Wife, which just left me with so many questions, but like in the best way that a book possibly can. Like, I'm not saying I was mad. I knew there was going to be another book. I knew that she was planning to tell the story of Joseph's life over the course of a couple of books, but I was just, I closed Potiphar's Wife and I was like, I have to wait a whole year. Like, I don't know if I can wait a whole year for that. So I am really, really excited for this one, and I have actually already pre-ordered the paperback for this as well. So let me just read you the summary. Again, you might want to check out Potiphar's Wife while you still can. Get caught up if you haven't already. But the book summary or back cover summary is: thrust into an arranged marriage, the daughter of ancient Egypt's high priest plays a pivotal role in Joseph's biblical narrative in this powerful novel from the award-winning author of Potiphar's Wife. After 4-year-old Asenath's mother is murdered by Egypt's foreign rulers, the child is raised to be a priestess by her overprotective father, high priest of Egypt's sun god. For 15 years, Asenath is sequestered in the upper levels of Ra's temple, convinced it is her destiny to heal the land by becoming queen to the next Egyptian pharaoh. But when Egypt's foreign king instead gives her as a bride to the newly appointed vizier, a Hebrew named Joseph, her entire world is shaken. Beyond the walls of her tower, Asenath discovers treachery, deceit, and conspiracy that force her to redefine her destiny and weigh where her true loyalties lie. Can she still trust the gods of Egypt, or is Elohim, the foreign god of her husband, the one who will heal her nation during the feast and famine to come? So, you may have noticed we've got 2 Joseph-centered Old Testament biblical fiction novels on the plate for this year. We also had last year Potiphar's Wife by Misu Andrews, as well as The Prince and the Prodigal by Jill Eileen Smith. So there were a couple more Joseph novels, and I think there have been a few more in years before that. So I've kind of been joking that Joseph is like hardcore mega trending in the world of biblical fiction lately, but I am not mad because I am enjoying all the different interpretations and different perspectives. And that's really what biblical fiction is all about, right? It's different perspectives, different imaginings that all kind of give you a little bit of context or help you to imagine what life was like in Bible times and, see new ways in which you can apply the truth of the Bible to your own life through, parables and stories like these. So I'm really, really excited for that one. I loved Potiphar's Wife. I'm really nervous. I'm really anxious. I'm really happy. I'm having essentially all of the feelings for this book, and I just can't wait. Like, I'm actually to the point where I am like nail biting and on the edge of my seat. I remember when Misu Andrews wrote The Pharaoh's Daughter, and this is years ago, guys. The Pharaoh's Daughter was the first biblical novel that I'd ever read. The first like modern biblical fiction novel in Christian fiction, one of the first Christian fiction books in general that I read, but really the book that kind of turned me on to the genre as a whole. And I remember it was the first book, I was a teenager, so like I knew kind of about Twilight and the Hunger Games and everything that was popular back in the 2010s when I was young. And it was one of the first books where I remember I would log on to my computer and I discovered that Misu Andrews had a website, and I went on every single week to check if, she had this little progress bar for her next book, Miriam, that kind of told you like where she was in the process, if she was doing edits, if she was on her next round of edits, percent completion of each draft. And I would go on every single week to check after The Pharaoh's Daughter came out when Miriam, the sequel, was coming. And I was like just obsessed with refreshing that page and looking for news and following her blog. And, I haven't felt like that in years necessarily about a book waiting for a sequel. So, for me to be like this excited about In Feast or Famine says a lot. And the last book that I really, 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 really badly wanted to shout out. And again, I am sure there are more. I am sure there are other authors whose names are escaping me or who I just have, forgotten about in this moment, or who I don't know or legitimately haven't heard about yet. But these are just 5 books that I do know about and I did want to pass on to you guys as recommendations. The Voice of the Ancient, book 1 in the King's Men series by Connie Lynn Cassette. I adore Connie Lynn. Again, one of my greatest inspirations when I first discovered biblical fiction. She is such a sweet, wonderful author, and I am so excited to read her next book. It's coming out August 15th, 2023, which, side note to my husband, in case he's listening, babe, that's like the same week as our wedding anniversary. So if you wanted to get me a present, I'm just saying this would be a good one. Hope you're listening. I'll be sure and ask you later. Ha ha ha. But yeah, that one is also available for pre-order, Kindle, paperback, all of the things. But I just can't wait to have another one of her stories in my hands because they are always so good, you guys. Like, they literally never disappoint. Can I give you guys a quick disclaimer before I read the rest of this summary? Because I just did a take where I tried to read it and it did not go well, and I am realizing now that it's not going to go well. And I should have foreseen this, but I didn't practice pronouncing the names beforehand, so I'm sorry, and this is about to get really ugly, and I apologize if it sounds like nails on a chalkboard when I read these names to you, but I'm doing the best I can, and I hope you'll forgive me. The book summary is as follows. As the eldest son of a Levite and a Philistine, Avidan is torn between his duty to his family legacy and the desire for something more. When Ammonites attack the city of Yavash Gilead, he takes the opportunity to fight with his cousins for the newly crowned King Saul. But when one of the cousins goes missing during the battle, Avidan stays behind to search for him in hopes that he's still alive. Kezia is the daughter of one of the most powerful clan chiefs in the territory of Manasseh. On the brink of a forced marriage to a loathsome man decades older than her, she has no choice but to run. Dressed as a boy, she takes her horse and heads for the south, hoping to find sanctuary with her mother's family. Battling to survive the dangers surrounding them, Avidan and Kezia make a pact to travel together. As Kezia's true origins are revealed and Avidan's search for his cousin becomes increasingly futile, they must not only rely on each other to stay alive, but learn to trust the true and eternal King of Israel to guide their every step. With impeccable research and award-winning writing, best-selling author Connie Lynn Cassette brings to life the first years of King Saul's reign. So I have so many thoughts about this and so many reactions to this, but just know all of them are positive. Like, again, I apologize that I am a failure at pronouncing words. You'd think I'd do better considering this is literally what I do, is talk about biblical novels, but just ignore that. It takes a lot of practice and I was not prepared. But like, okay, first, I just have to say Connie's books are always filled with so much suspense and so much intrigue. They're just so exciting and they're so unique and they're so different and they're such page turners and they always have such interesting like blurbs and summaries, and I always have so many questions and I'm so excited to dive into this one. And usually when I read her books, I just like immediately the adrenaline starts going and I'm looking over my shoulder and I'm so into the story that when my husband comes around the corner, I scream, and it's always good for a laugh, good for entertainment. So highly recommend this one, even though I haven't read it. I'm just looking forward to it. And also, I have been on a huge David kick recently, ever since I read Barbara M. Britton's book, Defending David, a couple of years ago, which, by the way, is possibly one of my favorite biblical novels of all time, at least in recent years. Like, I had the privilege of being able to read that one as an advance copy and write a blurb for it as well, and I just adored it, and I cannot speak highly enough of it. But ever since then, I've been on a huge, like, Psalm reading, King David learning, like kick. Like anything lately that's been, you know, King David related, I have been Saul, David, Samuel, all of that. I have just been all over it. And when I heard Connie was gonna be doing this book, you best believe my heart just like jumped right out of my chest with excitement. I'm so excited for this, and yeah, I can't wait. looking at all of these covers on my screen right in front of me as I'm recording this, can I just say we've got some beautiful blues and greens coming to our shelves in 2023. I think that's definitely a trend, and I'm so excited for all these books in February and March and May and August. If if any of them sounded interesting to you, be sure to go check them out, see if they're available for pre-order via Amazon or your preferred book retailer, and you are probably going to be hearing about them later on in this podcast throughout the year as I make my way through them and read them and review them and post all of the recommendations for you guys. Thank you again so much for listening. My name is Jenna Van Mourik, and this has been the Biblical Fiction Buffs podcast. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, both the Biblical Fiction Buffs account and my personal account at Jenna Van Mourik for more biblical fiction content and also writing and lifestyle content as well. Thank you again for listening, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode.